Okay, we are going to learn this Sikha from Pashas Beshalach. This is from volume 16 of the Sichos. This is the third Sikha. The very first time the Torah tells us the laws of Shabbos is in this week's Torah portion in reference to the man. Since the Torah is precise, there must be some relationship between the theme of man and Shabbos. When we could see there's a connection between man and Shabbos, not only from this week's Torah portion. When the Torah talks about the mitzvah, how Hashem gave us man, the Torah also says they shouldn't go gather it on Shabbos, it won't fall down on Shabbos. We see another connection from Rav Sadia Goyen. Rav Sadia Goyen says, let's say you're traveling, random example, Marcus, let's say you're in London, and it's in this place and no one knows what parsha it is that week. So what should you do? Which parsha should you read? Says this idea, going, if you don't know which parsha to read, you always read Parsha Saman. You always go back to Man. Although on Shabbos no Man came down to the earth, but the Zohar very surprisingly says that the bracha for the Man of the whole week comes from the day that there is no Man falling down in the world. The bracha that God gives to the world for man comes down on Shabbos. For our English-speaking crowd, I'm sorry for the Yiddish pronunciation. We're talking about the manna bread. Okay, second column. We need to understand what is the connection between the man and Shabbos. We need to understand what's the relationship between the man and Shabbos. On the contrary, we find a very vast difference between them in their relevance. The man came down to the world in a very unique time and place. It was only for the 40 years while the Jewish people were traveling in the desert, whereas the mitzvah Shabbos is in all places and in all times. So what is the connection between the man and Shabbos? Okay, that's basically Ois Aleph. We've asked a question. There must be some relationship between man and Shabbos. The very first time the Torah talks about Shabbos is with the man. If you don't know which parsha to read, you read the Parsha Saman. And the Zohar says a blessing for the man of the whole week comes on Shabbos. And we need to understand what relationship is there between man and Shabbos. Shabbos is really very relevant every single week, and man not at all. Man happened only for 40 years at that time in the desert. So what's the connection between the man and the Shabbos? Is base. It seems that the relationship between the man and the Shabbos, you might suggest at first glance, is that both of them require no effort. Haman, next page, the man was bread from heaven. You did not have to plow or plant to get it. Then so too on Shabbos, you're not supposed to work on Shabbos. Not only are you not allowed to work on Shabbos, it says in Shulchan Aruch that it's a mitzvah not to think at all about your business on Shabbos. Rather, on Shabbos you have to feel as if all your work is done. This is in order to increase your pleasure on Shabbos. You're not allowed to think about business at all on Shabbos. The phraseology of Shulchan Aruch is very profound. Very. That's a little bit of a. It's not the way I should say it. The phraseology of Shulchan Aruch is very palatable to me, because it says you shouldn't think on Shabbos about it's not like you should think that about your work. On Shabbos you should realize it's all done. On Shabbos, there's nothing you're supposed to be doing about it because it's taken care of by the Eibishter. That's the perspective of a Jew on Shabbos. The work is done. Of course, it doesn't apply to communal work, things you're doing for the community. By Avram Glick, the Rebbe's roving shliach in Europe, was once by the Rebbe for Simchas Torah, and the Rebbe said to him, the time has come for a new Chabad center to be built in Germany. And as the Rebbe finished telling this to him, the Rebbe began the hakafa, then began dancing, and after the dancing of that hakafa, the Rebbe went to him and then asked him, "What have you done already for this?" Rabbi Kunin was once at Rebbe's office on a Tuesday, I think it was. No, it was a Wednesday maybe. The Rebbe said to him, it was this Wednesday before Lag BaOmer, which was on a Sunday. The Rebbe said, "Today you're going back to California. You have Thursday and Friday. On Shabbos, a custom by Jews is they don't work. And Sunday you have to have the children ready for the Lag BaOmer parade." Anyways, but regarding communal matters, you could still do stuff on Shabbos, but the bottom line is, it seems a very obvious connection between Mon and Shabbos. Both are about relaxation. Shabbos, you're not supposed to relax, you're supposed to feel that all your work is done. And similarly, the Mon comes without any effort. However, it doesn't seem that this satisfies us, because Sharei Aleph, number one, it wasn't free food for everybody. Tzaddikim received them on as bread. Beinanim, people who were not tzaddikim or average, they got it as dough. And the wicked got them on as kernels, and they had to grind them and then make them into dough and make the kernels into dough, and then from there to bread. So it wasn't exactly Shabbostic for everybody. Another distinction between the wicked and the righteous was that tzaddikim got the man on their doorstep. The average people have to go out and gather them on, and the wicked have to go far out and gather them on. Unlike Shabbos, that every single Jew has to feel on Shabbos that all his work is done. So there seems to be a distinction between the Mon and the Shabbos, not exactly the same thing. Number two, Bais Bezalel Chabad. On Shabbos, you're not allowed to do any work whatsoever. Regarding the Mon, the Torah says you should not work you don't need to work to get them on, or for tzaddikim at least. The emphasis is on only efforts regarding preparing your food. The Torah isn't, by giving us the man, the Torah isn't saying sit down and relax and everything will be taken care of as well. The Torah is saying the man will fall down without your efforts. On Shabbos, Hashem tells us not just about don't worry about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. On Shabbos, Hashem says don't think about business, period. So there seems to be another distinction between the Mon and Shabbos, where the Mon, Hashem tells us to be satisfied that all your food is taken care of. On Shabbos, it's more, Hashem tells us don't do any work at all. Therefore, it makes sense to say that the connection between Mon and Shabbos is in the aspect of the preparation of the food and the eating on Shabbos. There is a movement gam mikach shechivis shol shus b'shas achein chivis lechem mission lemedim and apostle psukim dar belamon. Vayim Meshal ichla yom ki Shabbos hayim Lashem hayim mitzub l'sada lechem mission klaim and yoni achila shal Shabbos lemedim and amon. We also see a connection between Mon and the eating on Shabbos, because the obligation of 3 meals on Shabbos is from the words in the Torah about the Mon. When the Gemara infers from the repetition of the word hayoim, which means today. When the Torah commands us about not gathering the Mon on Shabbos, the Gemara infers from that word hayoim that every time it says the word hayoim, every time it says the word today, it's coming to add another meal. Moshe Levin tells the Jewish people, eat the Mon today, because today is Shabbos. Today you won't find it in the field. Since it says the word today 3 times, the Gemara infers from there that you're supposed to have 3 meals on Shabbos, which parenthetically is a reason why it's customary not to have a Chassidim aren't so careful to eat a 3rd meal on Shabbos, because if you look at the 3rd time the Gemara mentions the Mon, The Gemara said the Torah mentions the word Hayoim, today, on Shabbos, which is the allusion to the third meal. It says today you won't find it in the field, which emphasizes that there is it's not a physical meal, it's a spiritual meal. The Shalosh is the third meal of Shabbos. Let's look at note 14 for a second. There are various customs that we do every Shabbos when we eat our meal. The Alter Rebbe says you should have a tablecloth under the man. You should cover the chalas, just like the man was covered between two, the dew on the bottom and dew on top. So to its custom, every Shabbos when we eat our meal, we make we remember the man, and we have the covering underneath the tablecloth, and we have the covering on top, the decal, the Shabbos, the challah decal. It covers the Shabbos, it covers the chalas. So we find a clear connection between the food we eat on Shabbos and the man. So we need to understand what's the connection between the food that we eat on Shabbos and the man. Okay, note Ois Gimel. The pasuk says, "I'm going to rain down to you bread from heaven, and the people will go out and gather every single day." What for? In order that I should test you, says Hashem, if you will go in my Torah or if you won't. Rashi comments on the words, in order that I shall test you. What's the test? The test is, will you fulfill the various commandments that I gave you about the month? Number one, I asked you that on that on a regular day, you don't leave over any of the month for the next day. You consume all the month you gather on day one, not worry about the next day. And mitzvah number two, don't go out on Shabbos to gather the month. That means the reason why Hashem is sending the man, the whole point of the man coming to the world, is to test us to see if we will keep the mitzvahs associated with the man. Next page. What are the two mitzvahs associated with the man? Don't leave any man over, and don't go out on Shabbos and gather the man. We understand what's the connection between these two mitzvahs. Not to leave over the man to the next day, and not to gather the man on Shabbos. Both of them are the reason, they're the intent of Hashem in giving us the man. Their point of the man is we should not gather the man on Shabbos. We should not leave the man over to the next day. Both of these mitzvahs encapsulate what the man is all about. We need to understand what is the man about and why these two mitzvahs, the mitzvahs that make the man worth it. So we have a lot of questions. To recap for a second, our questions are: what's the relationship between the man and Shabbos? There must be some connection between the food we eat on Shabbos and the man. And question number two, what's the connection between the two mitzvahs that Hashem gave us associated with the man, not to gather the man on Shabbos, not to leave over to the next day? Yonatan thinks he knows the answer already. No, Yonatan, what do you think the answer is? They both seem like very about faith, no? You shouldn't worry about the next day. You shouldn't worry on Shabbos. Shouldn't take care of you. I don't know. Let's see. Dalit. We'll understand this by first highlighting what is unique about bread from heaven in comparison to bread from the earth. Lechem in the earth is korach raveis adam. Aideshu mechen kelim b'derech hateva chishu zir chulu. Neis nagut baruch hu lechem hamisamil v'koil as kol terech adam hamtzois akliv alavush. Bread from the earth is connected to what we do. A person has to plow and plant. When he does stuff in b'derech hateva, in the way of nature, then God gives him bread, which bread is not just bread. Bread is like in the English vernacular, bread is all your needs. You got bread, man? You got it all taken care of? So the bread from the earth, the model of bread from the earth, the model of bread from the earth is that a person has to make vessels in nature through which God sends his needs. Unlike bread from heaven, where bread from heaven is not at all dependent upon the ways of nature, in regards to the bread from heaven, there is no effort on man's part needed. Move on. So because of the difference between bread from heaven, where there's no work at all needed, and bread from earth, where Hashem asks us to make a vessel to receive this bread in the ways of nature, there's a great difference between how we feel when we get these various kinds of bread. With bread from the heaven, that God's blessing is vested within a natural means that a person prepares, although he recognizes that his efforts are only a vessel, are only a garment for God's blessing, and more. Even the fact that he's making this vessel is not because this vessel is actually necessary. First of all, it's the blessing is coming from God. He knows that. Second of all, the only reason why he has to make a vessel for this blessing is not because God can't send a blessing without him making a vessel. It's only because Hashem says, I want you to make a vessel. God says, I will bless you only in all that you do. I'm not going to bless you when you're not doing anything. I'm going to bless your efforts. That's what Hashem says. God will bless you in all that you do. So Hashem is telling you, you got to do something upon which my blessing will rest. Not because I need you to do it, but because I'm commanding you to do it. I want things to work this way. So although a person recognizes this, and this is the way he looks at life, that all he's doing is just making a vessel for God's blessing. And he's only making that vessel not because it's intrinsically needed and God needs his efforts, rather it's because God said to him he wants him to do things this way. So it's really meaningless. It's just Hashem says, I want you to do it. If Hashem would say, I don't want you to do it, then Hashem could send it without the vessel. But Hashem asks him to do it, so he does it because Hashem said so. He puts on tefillin, he also goes to work. It's not because he sees any value in the work. He's doing this because Hashem said so. However, the fact is, since the bread arrives to the world through the garment that a person makes an effort in, there's room to give credence, give importance to the efforts of people as the cause that brings up parnasa. Yes, it's not true, but when you're doing this, you feel that you're actually making a difference. You feel that you're creating the parnasa, you're making it happen. That's when you go through these steps of going to work and going 9 to 5 and making the calls and moving around and going on the internet, you end up feeling that you're the guy. You're making it happen. This is not the case with bread that comes from heaven. This is not the case with bread from heaven. With bread from heaven, there is no involvement of man's efforts. And therefore, a person feels, when he gets bread from heaven, total reliance on Hashem. This is the fact. So when you're working to get bread from the earth, you end up feeling that you're involved too, that your efforts mean something, although they don't. Whereas when you get bread from heaven, that produces this feeling in yourself of total reliance on Hashem. Now we can understand why these mitzvahs that are associated with the man are the whole point of what the man is about, or the whole point of the bread from heaven. To bring a Jew to absolute trust in Hashem and to test him thereby, to bring a Jew to the recognition and all of his bread and all of his needs only come from God and from God alone, without any intermediary of man's efforts, therefore it's forbidden for a person to worry about the bread of tomorrow. The whole point of this is that you are not involved. This is God's taking care of you. The point of the blessing of the man is the total reliance on Hashem. And therefore, a person gets involved and he leaves the bread over to the next day. It defeats the whole point of what the man's about. The whole point of the man is it shouldn't be like bread from the earth, where you feel that you have a stake in it and you have an involvement in it, and your efforts mean something. The whole point of bread from heaven is to bring you to total reliance on Hashem, and therefore leaving man over for the next day is diametrically opposed to the whole point of what man's about. As it says in the Medrash Tanchuma, next page, it says in the Torah, God will give you each day what you need. It says in Tanchuma these powerful words: the one who created the day created your sustenance. Whatever you need was created by the creator of day. You hear what's going on, Marcus? Someone tells you, have a good day. Good day. Is that Australian or is that English?
G'day would be Australian, but we own Australia is where we send our prisoners. So it's fine, same difference. It's like a holiday home. One of our properties.
Okay, I guess the Commonwealth thing doesn't really resonate with you. Anyways, so Empire. Anyways, Rabbi. So the one who made the day created your parnasa. Hear the words of Mordechai. If you have a day, today is Tuesday of Parshas Beshalach Tashim Pei Aleph. God made this day. He also, with making this day, he granted whatever Mordechai needs.
Yeah, but you tripped me up with you said be boo boo boo. I was like, wait, I thought I knew everything until then. I don't really get like I don't know what the word is. I don't get a joy out of parnasa that I don't earn. So I'm not understanding the context here. Believing that Hashem is using nature as a conduit and using you and your skills and your activities and they're successful is, I get more of a joy from that than if I like opened my front door right now and there was, a suitcase of unmarked $100 bills, in there. I just am. I mean, I'd be happy with both, I'm sure, but I don't get like a fulfillment from the totally above nature, right? Like it doesn't.
Well, ask you a question. I know we're on YouTube and you're a little sensitive to being on YouTube. I ask you a very personal question. Is everything you enjoy Kedusha?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So maybe you're not enjoying it doesn't mean that that you didn't understand it. Maybe the Rebbe is actually saying that we have to have the point of bread from heaven is not for our enjoyment. Maybe we would enjoy bread from the earth more. But there's something that's gained by bread from heaven, and that is that you have total reliance on Hashem. There is another satisfaction on a deeper level that you feel this connection to Hashem. You're not having that the Gemara says what you're saying. The Gemara says a person would rather have one measure of bread they earn themselves than 9 measures that they got from someone else. You rather earn things yourself and get things as inheritance, the Gemara says. You rather earn things yourself. It's true. But there's another deeper part of yourself that's satisfied specifically on this connection to Hashem, on the fact that to look to God. So there is there's a part of ourselves which isn't satisfied 100%. In fact, by the way, that's what the Torah says. Hashem starved you and fed you the man. Why did he starve us? He fed us the man. So it does starve you in a way because you feel total reliance on Hashem. You feel zero involvement. So, but there is, Hashem wants to give us that element of life too. Hashem also wants to give us, like the reason Hashem gave us the man in the desert for 40 years was to instill in us this sense of total reliance on Hashem. Even in times when Hashem asks us to work with our hands, Hashem wants us to realize total reliance on Hashem. There is nothing that we're really doing. Okay, let's read a few lines over there. On the top of 187, this is the source for the teaching of Rabbi Elazar Medoy. Rabbi Elazar Medoy said, anybody who has what to eat today, and they're worried about what they will eat tomorrow, that person lacks faith. If you have enough to eat today and you're worried what you're going to eat tomorrow, it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, right? Imagine you have food today and you have nothing tomorrow, and you shouldn't worry about tomorrow. No, the lesson today says if you're worried about tomorrow, you have bread to eat today, you're missing emunah. Hashem creates your needs every single day. God creates the day. God creates your needs, and therefore, don't worry today about what's going to happen tomorrow. I know Marcus thinks about, we're talking about the Romans, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. But the Torah is saying that faith in Hashem means that you don't think at all about tomorrow. You know, remember I told you about Rabbi Feldman from Australia? I think Rabbi Feldman, I asked her for bracha for his institutions, and Rebbe said to him something to the effect of, it will come to you like bread from heaven. At first he was very happy, bread from heaven. But then he realized what the Rebbe meant. Like, he'll never feel secure. He'll always be like, have no idea. You have no idea. But the Gemara says that's actually the way things are supposed to be. It's supposed to be in a way that you have no concerns what's happening tomorrow. God will give you whatever you need. Just to recap what we said in Eis Dalet. So we before explaining Ritz Hashem the connection between Mon and Shabbos, we started talking about the difference between bread from heaven and bread from earth. And we said the bread from heaven comes to our efforts. Bread from heaven comes only from Hashem. And the reason why Hashem gives us bread from heaven is in order for us to feel total reliance on Hashem. And that's why leaving the man over for the next day and like being involved, like I got to do something about it, defeats the whole purpose of the man. And that's why it is one of the commandments that God gave us. The whole point of why He gave us the man is that we should not leave it over to the next day. We should feel total reliance on Hashem. But Hashem will see tomorrow more about the connection between Mon and Shabbos, God willing. Any questions on today?
Quick question about the name Elazar. What does that mean?
Elazar.
Yes.
Elazar, it means God will help. It's interesting and very relevant to our discussion because the word Eliezer is equal to 318. The word to give up hope in Hebrew is Yeush. Yeush is 317. Any path you try in life, doesn't matter how much it makes sense, if you're going without the bitachon that Hashem will help you, it's going to lead you to Yeush. It's going to lead you to 317. 317 means to give up hope. Eliezer means that God will help. If you go with the perspective God will help you, then it's one more. It's one more than the Yeush. One number more, which means like doing exactly the same thing. With exactly the same thing, but you're going with this thing is going to help. This is the vessel. I know the vessel. When you say this is the vessel, it's a dead end. In fact, one of the ways of ruining the vessel is by saying this will help. If by saying this vessel will help, you sort of push away God's assistance. So the best way to look at anything is Hashem will help. And as Baal Shem Tov says, Yid says Hashem will for sure help. That causes stuff to happen. 318. Hashem will help. Eliezer. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Great day, Marcus. Great day, Beryl. Great day, Menachem. Mordechai. Great day, Jonathan. Great day, Dr. Bressman. Sei gesund.